Yesterday, I mentioned that Joe Biden was anticipating or was to be pardoning, I should say, commuting the sentences of 75 people who are serving long sentences for nonviolent drug offenses. The another person that he actually pardoned yesterday was a guy named Abraham Bolden, who was the first Black Secret Service agent on a White House detail. Now, it's interesting. There's a story about him in the Chicago Sun-Times that outlines one reason why he had been prosecuted and convicted. And it was supposedly in retaliation for, and Bolden served on Kennedy's detail.
Kennedy appointed him as the first Black Secret Service member.
There you go. And he complained, Bolden did, about other Secret Service agents drinking on the job and showing up basically wasted for duty. And this is according to a memoir written, I should say, it was noted by Mitchell. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get this here.
What are you looking for? Which part?
Well, this quote in the piece. Go down to the quote here. I don't know. It's all broken up here. But down here, keep going down. All right, right there. Okay, so
New York or the columnist.
Yes, Mary Mitchell. Now this is interesting. This made the case for a pardon in January column in Chicago Sun-Times, saying that after he complained about agents drinking on the job and showing up unfit for duty, he was threatened to reveal the agent's shortcomings in protecting the president. He was charged with bribery in a case involving counterfeit defendant. After being tried twice, he was convicted in 1966 and sentenced to 6 years in federal prison. He served 3 years and 9 months behind bars. What she doesn't mention,
this
oddly
seems
enough,
to be left out of most of the national reporting or articles that I've been able to find on this topic.
His critiques of the Secret Service men were not general. They were specifically about an earlier attempt on Kennedy's life that had happened, like a month before?
1963.
Chicago in November, so earlier that month.
Right.
And so there was, the impetus could have been the same. Like, you're complaining about the Secret Service. It just so happened that there were broad implications for how their failures. But it's just weird how this, first assassination attempt on Kennedy's life has not gotten much of a telling.
Because the Chicago plots, and I think there was maybe a Miami one too, but I'm less certain on that. But the Chicago plot was not mentioned in the Warren Commission.
Well, he tried to tell the Warren Commission about this in particular.
And that's the problem.
Then later, right? And the person, by my understanding, Matt, and you can correct me, who ended up getting arrested for this, also a former Marine like Oswald, also stationed in Japan. These are just curious facts.
Well, it's also just curious that, we have sort of memory hold that as a nation for whatever reason. Maybe, I don't know. But the bottom line is, good on Joe Biden for finally pardoning this guy.
But they're framing it like, he was retaliated against because he was the first Black Secret Service member, which I'm sure he faced
enough.
immense racism. But like that being the front-facing part of the story, that's like a real hiding of the ball.
And I just want to outline like the way he was framed. Speaking of framing, so this is from Jefferson Morley, who we talked about last time with regards to like his work on the assassination. But in 1964, he was charged with accepting a bribe from a Chicago counterfeiter who was the target of an investigation Bolden was working on. He was ultimately sentenced to 6 years in prison, despite the fact that one of the counterfeiters admitted at his own trial that he had perjured himself at the request of the prosecutor.
Yeah, that's just a detail, though. So, sometimes that happens, and you just got to go with it.
Got to hear both sides.
Yeah, exactly. But good for Biden finally pardoning this guy. And I wonder if he'll have anything else to say at this point. It would be interesting.
It's a nice little message, though, I think, to send to Secret Service and sort of these agencies. Like, we're gonna not cover this stuff up anymore.
Yeah.
It is still just unconscionable that he served over 3 years in prison.
What a legacy for the first Black Secret Service.
Exactly. Well, it's fitting for America.
Fortunately, racism not a problem in the country anymore.
Yeah.
And we don't want to rip open old wounds. We'll get to some clips regarding that. It is amazing just how, like, every day you could have just the most beautiful piece of evidence of the ongoing nature of racism in this country. And yet for every one of those, there's two people out there on the right saying that this doesn't exist anymore.
Ancient history.
Ancient history.